Welcome class to Flash Professional CS5 for East Tech, and in this episode I am going to be showing you how to show, hide, and lock different layers. I'm also going to be showing you how to create a mask layer, so if you have objects outside of the stage area you can mask that out so your viewer will not see it. We're also going to talk a bit about importing bitmap objects as well as vector graphics. We did talk about vector graphics before, but we're going to do it again because this time we're actually going to be able to show you how to change that graphic that you have in the library, change it in Photoshop or Illustrator, and then come back into the library and update that image. We're also going to talk about symbols and instances and how they are important in Flash. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at how we show, hide, and lock layers. Down in the lower left corner of the timeline, I have all the objects that are in this picture. I'll go ahead and blow the picture up a little bit bigger. So what I'm going to basically do is, if I click on different objects, remember when we click on it, the bounding box goes around us to show what that object is. But if I click on the little dot under the eye, I'm on tree 2, if I click on the little dot, it will hide that object. So if I need to do some work and I have a couple of objects that are in the way, such as tree 2 and tree 1 are kind of in the way of this background, I can see where I need to maybe fill in some more color. It could be that I just want to see one object but hide the rest. It could be maybe I want to do some work on tree number 2. So if that's the case, instead of going and hiding all of these other objects, I can option click on the dot next to tree 2 under the eyeball, and everything else disappears and only the tree remains. So that's a way to hide everything but by holding the option key, or hide just that object by clicking on that. Same thing with locking items. I can go ahead and lock my tree so nothing can be changed on that tree. If I try to select the tree, it won't even let me select it. It kind of drags and grabs other stuff. That tree is locked. Let me kind of undo what I just did there. There we go. And also, I can do just the opposite. I can hold the option key down and click on that to where now everything else is locked. And if I go to try to select stuff, the only thing that can be selected is that tree. So it'll keep me from accidentally selecting items around an object so I don't accidentally move everything. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the layer mask. Right now I'm going to go back out to my 100% mode so I can see this outline. I have this building that's sticking out above the top, and I have my background which is really sloppy around the outside of my stage. The way I create a mask, click on a new layer, and wherever that layer is, what's below it is going to be masked. So I'm going to go ahead and name this layer mask so I know what it's going to be. So I now have my mask layer set there, and I'm actually going to mask the background because it's sitting in that position. The way I create the mask is I need to go and create a rectangle. So I'm going to grab the rectangle tool, and the stroke is not important. In fact, I don't want a stroke, so I'm going to click on stroke and click on no stroke. I also want my mask to be a color that is not represented in my picture. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but I just want to not accidentally have the mask being visible. So I definitely would not want my mask to be blue or any of the colors. I like to kind of try to pick a really bright color to use as the mask. Purple would really stand out in this case. You know, it could be any color for the mask, but I want something that's going to stand out. So I'm going to go ahead and create a rectangle on my stage, and then I'm going to go ahead and select that image, and now I'm going to go out to Align. I'm going to find my Align tool, and I want to make sure that this Align to Stage is checked on, and then I'm going to go to Match Size and Match Width and Height, and that just made my rectangle the same size as my stage. Then I want to align horizontal center, and now align vertical center, and now my rectangle is the exact same size as my stage. If I come down here to mask and right click on mask and click mask, it is now masked out everything in that background. Notice the building is still sticking above. What I need to do, if I want objects to be masked with that exact same mask, I need to drag it below the mask. Also notice that mask and background have both been locked now. So if I go ahead and click on building 2, drag it below the mask, my mask appears again. Why? Because the building is not locked. If I click that lock, it now has taken the top off of that building. The only thing is now is if I go ahead and click on my evil bear and pull him out over the side, he is still not being masked. If I want him to be masked, I pull him under the mask as well and go ahead and lock him, and now he's only showing halfway through. If I want every single object to be masked, I need to pull everything below the mask, lock every object, and now every single one of those objects will get masked out as well. So that's how you create a mask and how you can create multiple objects to be masked by that same mask. Importing bitmap objects. I learned the hard way that I want to get rid of this image. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this. I don't want to save. I'm going to keep it where it was. I'm going to get a new action script. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to import a photograph, a bitmap object. So there's a couple of ways to import. We learned the last class that I can go to import and I can import an object to the library. I can also go ahead and import it directly to the stage. So this time I'm going to import to stage. And I just so happen to have a photo out here of EastTech. Notice also out here, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on this one. Notice I have EastTech Original and EastTech JPEG. They're both identically the same image. The reason why is because in a moment, the photo that I'm going to import into my library, I'm going to go back out to Photoshop and alter that photo, and I'm going to update my library. So I want my original to be intact. I don't want to mess that up. So I'm going to make a copy of it and just go ahead with EastTech JPEG. I'm going to go ahead and open that up. I've also created a smaller image because my image before was so huge it took forever to load. This one loaded pretty quick. I'm going to go ahead and select that, go back to align, make sure it's aligned to the stage, and I'm going to match the size, and I'm going to align it to the stage. So align horizontal, align vertical, and now I have an object that actually is EastTech, and it fills up my entire stage. So what's going to happen now is I can actually use a photograph background as a background to whatever animation I want to create. So if I go over here to library, I notice that EastTech JPEG is in my library. But let's say I want to alter this image now. I've imported it, it's in my library, it's on my stage, but I want it black and white. I don't want it in color. So I'm going to go ahead and hide Flash for a second, and I'm going to go ahead and pull up Photoshop. And here's the same image in Photoshop that I just loaded in. I'm going to go ahead to Image, Adjustments, and I'm going to turn this black and white. And I'm going to go OK with that. So now I have a black and white image, and I want to save it. So I'm going to go ahead and save this image as a black and white. So now it's saving over my old image. I can now go ahead and hide Photoshop, bring Flash back. Notice the image is in color here, but if I right-click on my image in the library, I can go down here to where it says Update. So I'm going to go ahead and click Update. And if I had a lot of objects in the library, it would allow me to check more than just one. But I have the one checked. I'm going to go ahead and update that. And now it just turned black and white, close, and now my object is updated in my library and on my stage. So that is an important way of being able to keep track of images, make the changes you need in either Photoshop or Illustrator, and then have it automatically update into Flash. I'm going to create a couple of objects, and then we're going to play with those a little bit. First object, I'm going to go ahead and import to the library. I'm going to go ahead and import my happy hippo. And I'm going to use that hippo to kind of talk a little bit about library items. And I'm also going to go ahead and create a couple of trees. So I'm going to go to my deco tool. And I'm going to create those as objects. So if I go ahead and highlight that, I can right click, go to convert to symbol. Tree 1. Okay. And then I'm going to select this one. Convert to symbol, call this tree 2, and now I have a couple of trees in my library along with my hippo. Once it's converted to a symbol, the object now resides in the library, and every time I drag that out and create a new instance, when it's on the stage, it's no longer a symbol, it's an instance of the symbol. Symbols live in the library, instances live on the stage. When I bring out an instance, it's not copying that image. It's telling Flash to take that symbol and at this coordinate, recreate it. So what's happening here, it looks like the symbol, but memory-wise, it's a fraction of the memory by creating it. I can make 100 trees out here by drawing every single tree, and it's going to take up a ton of memory. But I can take one symbol and duplicate that 100 times, and it's barely larger than my original file without the object on the stage at all. So using symbols when you're creating this is really the way to go. I'm going to pull a few hippos out of here. I can also go ahead and, oops, drag them out here, there we go. I can change and edit an object that is a symbol in the library, and then all the instances will update. So if I go ahead and double click on my icon of the happy hippo, it now puts me in an edit mode. If I double click and keep double clicking, right now I have his face. I can go up here where it is gray and maybe turn his face like a bright red. And then when I click off of it, my hippo's face is red. When I go back out to my stage, all the hippos are red. So I can make changes in the library to one symbol and all the symbols will update. Let me go ahead and zoom in on this one. If I can click on this one hippo, I go under properties, I've clicked on the hippo. I have certain style effects I can change. I can change his overall brightness, and it will only affect the one instance on the stage. If I zoom back out, notice the others are still lighter in color. I can actually go to free transform, and I can make this one tall and skinny, and it will not change the rest of them as well. However, if I go back out to the library, and I double click on this guy and go to free transform, let's go ahead and click on him out here. Go to free transform. I can make this guy really wide, and then when I go back out, they're all wide. So I can change certain attributes of an instance on the stage and have just that one change, or I can change it in the library and all of them will change. One other thing I can do as well is I can decide, you know what, I want to have some hippos with a red face and some hippos without the red face. I can actually right click on my hippo and duplicate that one, and I go ahead and leave it as hippo copy. And then maybe my hippo copy is going to be, let me zoom in so I get a little more accurate with that. I can go back out and change his face back to gray. The happy hippo copy will have a gray face, happy hippo will have a red face, and I can actually duplicate and make changes that way. So now if I go ahead and grab this hippo out, I've got instances of both hippos. Last but not least, get rid of all that. Let me pull my trees out for a second. Let's say I've got, I'll pull these 3 trees out, and I'm going to create an image that I want to be able to duplicate over and over again. Let's say I have this symbol right here, and I want to have this duplicated. I don't want to have to keep drawing out these 3 objects, but I can go ahead and select all 3 of these instances, and I can go ahead and convert those 3 instances to their own symbol. We'll call it 3 trees. So now there is a new symbol called 3 trees that I can drag out to the stage, and I can duplicate those as many times as I want as nested symbols. So it's actually taking the 3 initial symbols and create a new symbol out of the 3 old symbols. What I want you to do today, here's the assignment. You're going to create a background that's going to spill out over your stage area, and I want you to be able to use the mask to confine our view of just the stage. So we're going to clean up all that stuff that spilled off the stage. I'd like to see you find an image on the internet and go ahead and import that in. So a medium-sized image you're going to import in and then maybe modify it in Photoshop and then update. And last but not least, play around with some of these instances and doing complex instances by combining some, and use that as part of your overall finished image. So that's your project, and have fun with that.